Good morning, dear friends. It is my pleasure to bring you an update on what God is doing in and through the churches in South Florida and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. Palm Vista Community Church in Miami and Riverside Christian Fellowship in Fort Lauderdale are both multicultural, multilingual churches reaching our diverse communities in South Florida and into the Caribbean with the gospel. With the firm conviction that local churches are the primary means of advancing the gospel, and the realization that Miami represents a unique opportunity to reach the Hispanic world with a model of Hispanic ministry church planting moving forward, we began to pray. As a matter of fact, Miami is a city that is predominantly Hispanic numerically, but also, perhaps uniquely, culturally and politically. The Hispanic world dominates that city, predominates in that city. By the year 2050, 25% of America will be Hispanic. Today, there are more Hispanics in America than there are Canadians in Canada. So it is moving our way rapidly. No slight on the Canadians.
What's going on in Canada? My goodness. Where are the Canadians relocating to?
I don't know. I don't know. Not Miami.
Okay.
So, with that opportunity in front of us, our situation in Miami Lakes is we're 74% Hispanic. We just began to pray, Lord, would you give us the grace to build a model, a Hispanic church planting model that would build cross-centered and cross-generational churches. And the impact, the emphasis obviously cross-centered, but also cross-generational. You see, most of the Hispanic families in Miami, and I think perhaps in the U.S. moving forward, are going to be bilingual, but they're also going to be unique in this sense. Usually the grandparents in Miami speak no English. Most of the time they're all living in the same household. The parents would speak broken English. The children would speak broken Spanish, and their children in the future will probably speak no Spanish at all. So how do we keep that family together? How do we build a church that's cross-generational where we can raise up leaders to speak into this world and not separate them, because many times they are separated due to linguistics. So in response to our prayer, God brought us Jose Prado, a native son of Nicaragua with a passion to preach the gospel and build churches amongst the Hispanic community in South Florida. After confirming Jose's call to the ministry, we sent him to the Sovereign Grace Pastors College, where he received formative training for pastoral ministry. This training at the PC is an example of the difference that Sovereign Grace Ministries' commitment to Hispanic ministry in the U.S. and beyond has made in South Florida, and we are so grateful. Jose is a gift from God, and that gift was further developed at the Pastors College. One example of that is his preaching gift was sharpened, and this in turn has sharpened our preaching gift as he has returned to the team. He returned last June. His return has galvanized us around the mission of developing and deploying this model, this biblical model of Hispanic ministry, church planting, that advances the gospel through multicultural, cross-centered, cross-generational churches. Excellent. We are now sharpening our plans, our pencils, and our faith as we're calculating the resources needed to launch a Hispanic ministry church plant in early 2012 in South Florida. Because God has given Riverside Christian Fellowship in Palm Vista significant ties to the Caribbean, we have faith that what He is doing at Palm Vista and Riverside will have an impact on our friends in the Caribbean. Recently, Jim Britt and I had the opportunity to travel to the Dominican Republic and sit down with the lead pastors of the Oasis Christian Fellowship group of churches to discuss such questions as, what about small groups? They asked for our help in the issue of local church polity, and how does that plurality work in the local church, and how do we develop leaders? And our discussions moved to their own personal lives, and we sat around with them for several days, pastors with their wives, just discussing how to build team, how to build a movement, how to just build what God has given us by His grace here. And it was a glorious time. Our time proved very helpful for all of us, and it was encouraging to see what God is doing in the Dominican Republic. Now, two of those pastors in particular, Alvaro and Tomas, have become very good friends over the last 4 years. As a matter of fact, Alvaro is here with us this morning from the Dominican Republic. Alvaro, thank you for coming.
Yes.
In addition,
Yep.
In addition to building churches in the Dominican Republic, these men are busy pouring their lives and resources into Haiti, which has been ravaged with the earthquake. And by the way, now there's a cholera epidemic, and today the forecast is this hurricane's going to hit them. So talk about suffering. Please be in prayer for Haiti. These men are going into Haiti regularly, weekly, and we have the privilege as Sovereign Grace to serve them. And serious resources are going in with them. And finally, the Lord has led us to serve a small group of churches in Cuba, led by a very dear friend.
Yes.
Yesterday he told me, I'm a Cuban, and I love this country, but I will die in Cuba. That's my country, and I will give my life for the gospel in my country. He's faithfully preached it. He's planted churches. He's cared for pastors. He's raised 2 godly sons, one of whom was with us last time we were together here in April of last year, is the leader of the main church in Matanzas. This couple is described in Psalm 16:3. As for the saints in the land, they are the excellent ones, in whom is all God's delight. And friends, we have the great privilege of joining in God's delight in them as well, because they are here with us today. Manolito y Blanquita Fonseca. Would you please stand and we can...
Oh, my.
For the last 8 years, Sovereign Grace Ministries, you have invested significant resources in Cuba. Many other pastors have traveled there. Resources that were just necessary, teaching, serving these men, training other pastors, developing future leaders, just encouraging them. And even conducting, many of our youth have gone to conduct youth conferences, and worship leaders to conduct worship conferences and marriage conferences that have strengthened the churches to declare and demonstrate a clear gospel message. God's grace is so rich in this region of South Florida and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean. For that, we thank Him with all of our hearts. Thank you who represent Sovereign Grace Ministries for being the means of that grace. Thanks on behalf of those of us in the region in South Florida. Thanks on behalf of Alvaro and Tomas in the Dominican Republic. Thanks on behalf of Manolito and Blanquita in Cuba. Thanks for being, as it says in 1 Corinthians 15:58, steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor, it's not in vain. Amen.
Excellent.